How long have you been studying for the IELTS test? How many hours have you spent in boring textbooks? How many hours of learning pointless grammar rules? Or just reading and listening to passages about stuff you don't care about? Like farming in Mesopotamia? The IELTS can be crazy. I understand. And the prep can be very difficult. I understand. I saw it when I was teaching in South Korea, Thailand, and Vietnam. There was a lot of pressure on students, and they struggled a lot. It's an expensive test, and it takes a lot of time and dedication to study. So I wanted to make this video and talk about a few ways that you can make preparing for the IELTS not suck. Well, not suck as much. So let's get into it. One idea is that you can make it a game. Studying can be very boring, but if you frame it in a way to make it a game, a competition, a challenge, it starts to get a little bit more fun. You could use certain apps like Duolingo, Quizlet, and Anki, which help you study in a little more exciting way. They have different types of games, custom flashcards, and other ways that you could study your material. Also, a tactic I really liked is adding points to certain tasks. For example, you could do 2 points for every reading passage, 1 point for learning 10 new vocabulary words. You could do 5 points for a sample test, for example. Change the numbers if you want to, totally okay. But maybe you reward yourself once you hit a certain number of points. For example, if you hit 30 points, then you get to have a reward. That way, it feels more like a game or a contest or a challenge instead of being forced to study. Another thing you can do is practice what you like. No one says you have to read a passage about farming in Mesopotamia, but maybe you practice reading or talking in English about your interests. There's this one South Korean student that I had. Her English name was Irene. And Irene was probably the biggest BTS fan you could ever meet. And many times in class, she would be more shy to talk, not a volunteer, not quick to add any ideas. But when BTS came up, oh, she would talk all the time. She would talk so much in English about BTS. And that was amazing. It doesn't matter exactly what you're practicing, but if you're thinking, reading, and speaking in English, it counts as practice. Another example from South Korea was that my younger students, the younger boys, really liked the game Brawl Stars. And so I would ask them about Brawl Stars, and I actually downloaded the game. And many shy students or students with average skills would talk so much in English about Brawl Stars. So those are some ways that you can start to practice more. What are some of your interests? Do you like to read more? Why not read more books or articles in English? Do you like music or concerts or video games? Find ways to read about and talk about these things. Which leads me to my next point, that you can use different content to study. It doesn't have to be textbooks all the time. Now, sure, IELTS books are useful. You can learn question types, learn rules. you can learn what examiners are looking for. That's true. You shouldn't totally give up on those pieces of content. But what I'm saying is, to get more English practice, you can use different forms of content. You could use podcasts, books, movies, shows, video games. I would say it still counts as IELTS prep because you're practicing your English in a natural native context. When you listen to an American movie or watch an American show, you get to hear people using authentic language. So it is a very useful way to improve your English in general. A friend of mine from Lithuania, she had told me that she and her older brother, they would grow up watching cartoons in English. And it was different at the time because growing up in Lithuania, people learned Lithuanian, she learned Russian, Polish, as well as English later in school. But I remember her telling me that she learned more from watching English TV than from school itself. When you listen or read or watch content with native English, it's a great form of practice. So try looking into these types of mediums to practice. Now, don't use these exclusively. These should be in addition to your IELTS materials. Because again, you want to know specific question types, specific writing samples. You want to know the specific IELTS material, but practice your English using other content as well. A very big piece of advice is to plan, don't cram. Now, I'm guilty of this too, and maybe you are too. The day before a big test, what do you usually do? For many people before a big test, we will cram for hours to study. And that's usually not very helpful. If you need to cram, you don't have a plan. So, what should you do instead? How can you avoid the pain of cramming? Well, I would suggest plan your IELTS test in the future. And this way, you can plan smaller study sessions every day. It's better for you to have more time in a study routine than it is for you to cram for 8 hours before the test. So that would be my suggestion. Avoid cramming and work on a plan. What's a way that you can make a plan? Well, luckily, I'm making materials in a course, link in the description, that can help you to plan a tracker and routine for your IELTS study habits. You could go check it out. Speaking of planning, one thing I really would suggest is to track your progress. This is actually a very underrated technique. What you could do, and I use this in my personal life, is I'll make a habit tracker. A habit tracker allows you to look at your daily habits that you want to accomplish, and then you can check them off once they are completed. Why is that useful? Well, you get to see a visual reminder of your progress. And that is a very powerful technique. Not to mention, if you see your list of habits, and maybe you've done 3 out of 4, you should just do it so you could check it off and have a perfect day. You can see all of your checked off tasks. You can feel good about yourself, pat yourself on the back, that you did your tasks for the day. It's a very powerful way to stay motivated and also make it kind of a game. You can try to combine that with your point system as well. Think about if you do a sample reading passage, you get 5 points. Check that off of your list. Something like that. I think an important thing that people don't realize is that you should think about the future, in particular with IELTS, because it is a difficult exam. You have to study for a long time. You have to practice and get very good at English overall. I would say that it's like climbing a mountain. It is difficult. You are in pain sometimes, and it doesn't always feel worth it. But at the very end, it's usually worth it. So I want you to keep the future in mind. Something to consider is your why, your reason why. And I actually made a video all about that as well. So I would suggest you go and check that out if you want some more IELTS motivation. And hopefully this was a useful video to help you make studying for IELTS not suck as much. If you found this useful, definitely let me know. And if you have a trick or a tactic to make IELTS prep more fun or suck less, then let me know. I'm kind of curious to know. So thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.